What we need to be able to do is change our way we approach customers, or we are not going to be able to reduce or get value out of our services. And most MSPs are standing on melting ice. Got tools, they're selling them, and they don't realize as they're selling the tools to their clients, they're melting the ice and learn to be more strategic. And I want to say during that really difficult year, 2009, 2010, which was probably the hardest years for us as a company, we learned to be strategic. Any opportunity that you see in this space, jump on it and take it and sail fast.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle First, and welcome back to the MSP Pipeline. Today's guest is not your typical MSP story. And that's exactly why she's here. She's traded global markets on the DAX, produced 3 seasons of music show for PBS, built the brand for Rampage Jackson when the UFC was still fighting for credibility, and still owns and operates a deli that serves hundreds of people a day. And somehow, in the middle of all that, she's been running a managed IT security and automation company since 1997. Let's welcome Manal Iskander, founder of PCtronics, to the show, and thank you for being here, Manal.
Well, thank you for having me, Kyle. Nice to be here.
You know, before we start talking about MSPs, AI, or the future, I kind of want to start where this really began. You didn't start in IT. You came from finance, media, branding, food, worlds that have nothing to do with tickets and servers. So coming from finance and media, what about IT felt familiar to you?
Well, actually, it didn't really. I was working in finance, so I was watching how global markets were moving. And basically, obviously, I was overseas at the time, and I was watching lots of money flow into internet infrastructure as the internet was being built and commoditized. And as I was watching money go in there, I thought, this is the future of business, primarily. So I thought, you know, this is a starting ground, infrastructure that looks like it's going to be built, and it's going to be a new way that we interact with one another on a business forefront. So I thought this would be interesting. I had a family member that owned an IT company in Austria, Vienna. That's where I was living at the time. So I worked there for the summer, tried to learn it, and then thought, you know, I think I could bring this model to the United States. So moved here and decided to try my first hand at it wasn't managed IT at the time, it was just IT. So basically what we did was just build computers, eventually connect printers, eventually software became a thing. And I just watched the evolution of the IT industry. And it went from break and fix to eventually managed services, which is what you hear today. And the MSP of tomorrow will be managed intelligence, which I'm sure we'll hit on later.
Yes.
So yeah, so with that, it gave me a lot of opportunity also to get into different industries. So with that, I was able to, you know, meet very interesting people and offer my services, and then eventually, you know, get into the entertainment industry, into the UFC industry. And I just got lots of opportunities. We even had the opportunity to work with the Yeezy shoe for Kanye West. So
yeah,
a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you definitely have it all. But what would you say is maybe a skill, you know, from outside of IT that ended up being one of the most valuable once you were inside?
So basically, I think the whole concept of any type of thing that's called IT is, how does your infrastructure within your company work using technology? That's basically what it is, right? So what is IT? It is how to use technology to help your business run smoother, help you do HR, to accounting, to production, to getting a product to market, to sales, to data governance, to pretty much anything you do, you're using some form of technology now. So, you know, the idea, I think, of being in IT is trying to understand how the foundation of all business works, right? And so that's why we have verticals in IT, right? So when you have verticals, you understand that business, and that business is data infrastructure, and that business is tools, and, you know, how to govern that data. And each industry, each vertical has a different way about making money, bringing a product to market. They're all, you know, different. So it's really important when you're in IT to understand business infrastructure. So what I would say is that when you're in this level of this industry, you're really learning a lot about all the different industries that are out there and how they're commoditized, how they operate, how they bring things to market, how they govern their data, all of it. So you're kind of like, if you're smart, you're becoming very well versed in business.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I know you've been through basically all the sectors in the world of the industries, it feels like, but was there any mistakes you made, because you weren't a traditional IT person?
Yeah, lots actually. I think I always say I break it to learn it, and then I learn it.
Yeah.
So I break lots of things, especially now in the age of AI. We just decided to bring everything in-house and break it first and figure out what we did wrong. So I think what makes me a little bit successful is that I don't mind failing. I think I want to fail fast, like everybody else. Fail fast, learn quicker. So I just experiment and try things. So we always I tell our team we're customer zero. So we try everything in-house first. So customer zero, try it in ourselves, get it to work, and then we bring it to a client. So, I don't know. I think being customer zero is probably the best advice I could give anybody. Just try to practice. Doesn't matter if you know it already or not. You got to learn it by using it,
Of course. Yeah, you watched capital flows, bubbles, hype cycles, and legitimacy battles in finance, entertainment, sports. Like, from your perspective, what are some of the biggest changes happening in the MSP industry right now, would you say?
Okay, so there's quite a few that are happening right now, but one that's really relatable to people is that, hyperscaling is pouring capital into this AI infrastructure right now, and we see that, right? And so what that's doing is it's pretty much taking, we are the churn, and the commodities layer is this applications layer. So what we're doing is managing the stack, selling licenses, implementing the tool, okay? That's not signaling value anymore. Okay, that's starting to be replaceable. So what we need to be able to do is change our way we approach customers, or we are not going to be able to reduce or get value out of our services. We need to anchor our value not on what we install, but on what we can prove. So we need to be outcome based. So for right now, MSPs, it's this is an inflection point for us because we're selling tools. So what's happened now is that software has come in and it's learned to be agentic. It's learned to implement AI already within the software. So you get, let's say, security software, in which then we give to our customers. The good thing about it is it's making us familiar with agentic tools. It's saving us time. But what it should be doing is teaching us that the value margin is going away for us. It's going to the tools, taking away our margin. So how do we make margins if we're just installing tools? So that model now has to change, and people are not understanding that. So what we have to do now is do what these platforms did to us. Your RMM, your PSA, all of them have agentic tools built in. We're using them, and all of them watched our work, duplicated our workflows, and sold it back to us. So as we have clients, what should we be doing? We should be looking at our clients' workflows. We should be understanding their processes and helping them develop workflows so that we can develop an agentic flow over their workflows, an intelligence layer over their workflows, and sell it back to them.
Yeah.
Right? So then we are selling outcome-based solutions. We're not installing tools anymore. The tools will give us the room to be able to sell outcome-based solutions. So to me, this is a massive shift happening in our organizations today, happening in MSPs all around. And most MSPs are standing on melting ice. They've got tools, they're selling them, and they don't realize as they're selling the tools to their clients, they're melting the ice beneath them. And if they can't figure out how to create those same tools and sell them to their clients, they're going to miss the boat.
100%. And would you say, or no, we discussed about this in initial conversation, the MSP 3.0. If you could give anyone maybe a little understanding of maybe why you decided to switch into more of an MIP, that might give a little insight to some viewers.
So basically, before, people didn't really do a lot with their data. They only secured it. So it was really more important just to make sure infrastructure was working. Emails were working. Everything was networked. You had access to your tools. You had basic security. That was our job, and we do it really well. And it doesn't go away. Obviously, those things are still needed. But now we have the capacity to analyze our data and actually make it work for us, right? So a lot of of our clients, I don't know, I shouldn't say this for every MSP, but a lot of our clients like have all different types of workflows. They don't know where their data necessarily lives. Maybe it lives in across three different platforms. Maybe it's duplicated. Sometimes it lives in an email chain. Sometimes it's not governed. Sometimes there's no ownership over it. So now when they're saying, we would like to apply an agentic solution to a basic workflow, how do we do that? Well, they can't just do that, can they? Because their data is all over the place. It's not governed. They can't own it. They don't know. They're not going to say, if I apply this intelligence layer to this workflow and it makes a mistake, who owns that decision?
Yeah.
The AI or the person who's responsible for that workflow? So these are real conversations I think that we are needing to have right now, which is why I'm wanting to transition, keep our MSP. So I say MSP plus MIP, not like MIP into MSP into MIP, but more like an addition. So now you have an outcome-based solution that now can give you infinite amount of revenue, as we were going to talk about a revenue question, I'm sure, later, because now your revenue is outcome-based. What results can you provide?
Yeah.
And so who's going to help the client through this transition? It's happening with or without MSPs. So if MSPs don't jump on board and understand this, then clients are going to start to pull this technology through themselves. And that's going to be shadow AI. And I'm already recognizing it now. I'm already seeing clients, their individual employees are putting things in Gemini, in Claude, even creating code, putting sensitive data to create simple code in Claude Code. That stuff is not safe, right? So what's happening with all this shadow AI? Who's going to teach the client that they are jeopardizing their own data infrastructure? It's got to be us. Right?
We're maybe something different about client expectations compared to even 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, so you're getting a big variation, or at least we are. We're getting some that want nothing to do with it. Scared, just like, I don't know what this is, I don't want it. So that's a little bit harder sell because there's fear, and fear is always hard to sell to. Then you're getting those courageous clients who feel like they're always on the cutting edge, but they're not coming to us. And they're going out and researching these tools themselves, and that's where the risk lies, right? And then you get the clients that are curious and want to be taught first, educated first. Those are my favorite. So what we've tried to do as an MSP is, since we see this big variation, we thought, what if we take the first step? What if we start emailing all our clients and creating these working luncheons where we expose them? We tell them how in their industry AI is being used, what workflows are being automated in their industry, what their competitors are that are using those workflows or those AI tools. And then if they are worried about shadow AI, how to govern them safely and how to introduce AI governance policies before regulations are in place. So we've noticed that these working luncheons that we've been doing, customers are really appreciating. Number one, they're super educational, and it's helping give them shared language. They feel like they're getting the vocabulary they need to discuss it in their own work environments and industries. And they're feeling like they're ahead of the curve because they're getting these working luncheons with us where they're, if nothing else, being educated.
Yeah, definitely. And, going off of that, we had Carl Palachuk on the first episode on the Pipeline podcast. But he's talking about, working with the nice guy, right? Working with the people you actually enjoy. So I was wondering, do you have maybe a story where you have not worked with the nice guy as well?
You mean customers I haven't liked?
Yeah.
Well, I obviously earlier days, I would say that. I want to say I'm in a little bit privileged situation since I've been 3 decades in this field, that to work with me, I think it has to be mutual now, right? I'm not really in a sales funnel because I feel like it's somewhat of a privilege to have me on your team, mainly because I'm a strategic advisor to you. And I hope all MSPs will be one day. I hope that I'm the mentor role model of the MSP of the future, right? Where we become strategic partners, tech partners for our clients. So we learn to understand their industries. But early days when I was hungry, I would definitely say I would take difficult clients and I would jump hoops and I would do things that were really not my job. And I will give you a fun little a little analogy of one. So it was a company that was wanting a remodel. And so they were asking, could they remove all the tech, put it in the new building, do the whole movement? We said yes. And while we were looking at their building and we were looking at it and deciding what should go where, naturally, I was just giving some direction. Oh, this would be great. If this was in the lobby, this would be great. So then all of a sudden we were getting a request. Could you design the lobby? Could you and before it was over, we designed the lobby. We hired the contractor. We managed the contractor. We got them the city permits, and they were really difficult, but we somehow talked our way into a construction design implementation job. And it was a nightmare. And I told myself, never just say yes to everything ever again. But that was one time where I just kept saying yes. And it turned into from a crazy, crazy job. But I will say in their lobby, we built a, in the Rolls-Royce ceiling, the LED ceiling, we built a completely fiber optic ceiling inside their lobby.
Wow. That's
pretty cool, right?
That's amazing. That's a great story right there. Why don't we phase into, let's talk about the moments when the business actually changed. The years where the money felt different, the decisions that made growth sustainable, and maybe some of the lessons that only showed up once you lived through a good year, but also through a bad year. So, because we're the pipeline, it's not about activity, it's about what you choose to scale. So looking back at your best year financially, what would you say actually caused it? Was it a decision to hire a client?
Well, I want to say that the landscape has changed. So obviously my best year was right before the 2008 collapse, right? And industry was growing hand over fist. Everyone was scaling. You couldn't keep up fast enough. We were we built Lucille's Barbecue, 17. It was just, you just couldn't keep up. You couldn't hire fast enough. It was amazing. And then we had the 2008 crash, 2009, a lot of companies went under. It was very difficult. It was really difficult to stay relevant, really difficult to convince people that, basic IT was necessary. It was a difficult transition, and we had to learn to be more strategic. And I want to say during that really difficult year, 2009, 2010, which was probably the hardest years for us as a company, we learned to be strategic. We learned to start to listen to what customers needed and to try to advise them as a tech, as a full circle, as not just IT. And that probably helped position me to be in the position I'm in today. So I would say sometimes being a little broken helps you because you think out of the box, and you're also willing to scale anything, right? So you're willing to figure out what scales. I'll try it. If it sticks, great, we'll keep it. So I think those were a couple critical years that taught me a lot of lessons, and I often didn't say no in those years, and I started to learn a lot about the industry and what makes up an MSP. Also, during that time, the idea of an MSP was created. So tools started coming in, software as a service started coming in. So a whole new industry was being built out of that. So as you are a pipeline, what I would say for any MSP that wants to scale, be very careful on selling managed services as a tool and thinking that you're going to scale, because you're very limited on how many endpoints you can sell, and that's it. So you are selling a tech with a very defined margin, and the only way to grow is by scaling endpoints, pretty much.
Yeah.
So in order to scale unlimited, you're going to have to think of your space differently. And I think that is not a desire, that's going to be a necessity. And I think it's going to happen really quickly. And I think you're going to see the word agentic everywhere this year. You hear the word AI, but generative AI and agentic AI are two different things. Generative AI is content producing. You put in a prompt, it gives you an answer. We put in a request, it gives you an output. You then take that output, you do something with it, you put in another request, it gives you another output. It can do emails, it can do reports, it's very useful, it can query, no doubt, but it is not agentic. It cannot do your work for you. It does not remediate, it does not take action. It is one and done. You put in something, it gives you back something. It works back and forth.
Yeah.
Agentic AI is something that you're going to see a lot more of this year. Agentic AI is not fun and fluffy. It's not magical like generative AI. You can't just put in a prompt and something happens. It takes some actual work to build the workflow, decide how to analyze the data, decide where the data lives and is it governed, and what you want out of the data, right? So MSPs today have to understand that language first and foremost. So we need to understand that language, agentic. We need to understand workflows. We need to understand governing data ownership. And as we start to learn this language, we will be able to evolve with our clients and sell these outcome-based solutions. As we sell these outcome-based solutions, that's going to be highly in demand because all infrastructure is going to work like that in the future. All businesses are going to have automated workflows in the future. So once we know that, we have to be a part of that if we want to survive. So your pipeline is learning this vocabulary, having shared vocabulary with your clients, and then trying it internally first, becoming customer zero. So in your own pipeline, you're an MSP, try it first. Do ticket triage, do customer security report, do some sort of workflow you already do inside your organization. Write it down, map it, decide what tools you touch, decide what data it touches, put in some governance policies. Then, if you can't, hire someone out, but if you can, learn those tools yourself. Learn how to use an automation orchestrator. Learn how to adapt if you're a Microsoft tenant, use Foundry. If you're a AWS, use Bedrock. You're a Gemini or Google, use Vertex. Go into those environments, find the housing, and create those workflows inside your own environments, then test it out, and then start to do that for your clients. Start to have these sit-down conversations with your clients. And I promise you, small first. Small little workflows you help them automate, or you find low-hanging fruit, and you solve one small problem for them, eliminate one payroll issue for them, and then there's your pipeline. And
there it is. 100. I love that, Manal. And going back to the financial crisis in 2008, right? How did you, get clients really to trust you, or I guess maybe give you their money, basically?
So that's what I was saying, strategic. So what happened was we had a lot of clients in that. Obviously, everything was being built. So we had clients that did like foundational lighting in big shopping malls and things like that. That went down because that was shutting down. We had, obviously, a lot of the restaurants shut down. We had anything in construction shut down. So as we were seeing these industries being hit, we had real estate companies shut down. We were doing real estate organizations that were supporting whole regions, which were shut down. So, as that was happening, we started to, what I first did was okay, let's stop and analyze where the money is flowing out of, right? Instead of flowing in, where is it now going away from? Where is it depleting from? So we tried to analyze all the industries that were being hurt and the ones that would probably either shut down or, live on limited funds. And then we tried to analyze which industries could benefit from that. Okay. So from that strategic courses, I tried to find the ones that were shutting down, how to keep them a lifeline. So we could go in and say, we can reduce your expenses, reduce your hardware, simplify you, give you a much smaller platform to work on, so you stay in business and ride this out. So that was a selling point for me. And then I was able to help clients reduce their costs. And that obviously costs money in the beginning, but then with the long-term thought of knowing they won't have these recurring large bills. Okay. Then we also went to industries we thought could benefit from that. And we tried to give them solutions on how to capitalize from that. Like lending, things that we're trying to lend for equipment capital, things like that were really trending during those times. So we went to those organizations and said, hey, listen, you can keep these people afloat by having these private lending services. And so we went and tried to connect those companies, and that helped us survive that time. We were trusted. And I think the best thing to do is like educate yourself. Like, don't look for just money, look for education. Like, you're really selling yourself at the end of the day. So if you know what you're doing, everybody wants to be on your team, right? So go in with knowledge for your customers. Try to come in with something they didn't have, and then you're a trusted partner.
Yeah, you want to get your customer excited at the end of the day, right? So
exactly. Or less fear. Like, they say fear is a bigger motivator than success. So like, if you see a lot of fear in a customer, go in and like try to like tame that fear, try to give them solutions to help minimize that fear, be their biggest cheerleader, if you want to say. So what we say in our team is like, you are the customer's biggest cheerleader, no matter what. If you're not their biggest cheerleader, then you need to be.
I love that. And going off that is like, have you ever had a year with strong revenue growth, but at the end of the year it just didn't feel like success?
Last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, we grew really a lot last year, obviously, because all of these transitions, and we're a bit ahead of the game. So there's not a lot of people doing what we're doing. So that's helpful. But at the same time, like it's a learning curve. We're making a lot of mistakes. I'm having to do a lot of rework and not being able to really charge the customer. So I'm finding myself like, 7 days a week, 22 hours a day sometimes. Like, it's like when we make errors, when we break things, I got to fix them on my own time. Like, yeah, we made great money this year, but I'm not going to lie, we're exhausted. We're going to these conferences. We're trying to spread messages. We're trying to level up our customers. Ones we're afraid that may miss the boat or like get left out. We're trying to like wake them up. It's like a race. I'm chasing my tail. I'm going to tell you, this year has been, or this 2025 has been like one of the craziest years of my entire career. Last year was like, I haven't stopped. I must have gone 100 miles an hour from January 1st till December 31st. And I'm telling myself January is going to slow down, but all it did was pick up more momentum. So I'm seeing what 2026 is going to bring.
Well, I hope it brings some good things for you. But like, I guess, you say it's the craziest year. If there's something, maybe you could go back to 2025. And is there anything you would like slow down or do something different maybe?
Yes. So in 2025, we came up with a way to attack this new evolution, if you want to call it. So, and we just kind of discovered it later in the year, and I wished it was earlier in the year. And if I would have slowed down instead of just always trying to get there faster, I probably would have come to this conclusion earlier and been a little bit more proficient. So basically, we came up with a theory. It's called the double diamond theory, and it's discover, define, then design, and deliver. Okay. And basically with it, as we're dealing with customers, we go through a discovery phase first. So when customers are like, tell me about AI, we don't talk about AI, we don't talk about solutions. We go through a discovery phase first. Let's not talk about AI. Let's just figure out if you're even ready for it. What tools do you touch? Is your data secure? Is it? So we don't do anything. We do a discovery phase first. Then afterwards, we go through a define phase where we define, is there any documented workflows? Do they need to restructure any infrastructure? Do they need to decide who owns information? So all of that happens before anything even starts. So now we start a lot slower. We get the foundation for customers a lot faster now because we're breaking it down in rudimentary steps for the customer, and the customer now can slowly go through the process with us. Yeah. And then once we're done with that phase, we don't even go to the customer. Then we go back internally and we go through something called ideate, where we take all this information and we try to come up with solutions. Then we go back to the customer, and then we go through design. Would this workflow work for you? Would this deliver the outcome? Would this person be the right person to own this workflow? And then once we work that out, we start to build it, test it, and then we try to deploy it in test environments before we deploy it for the customer. So now we've kind of broken everything down to this double diamond framework, and it's much easier. It's much more successful. I'm hoping I can pass this framework on to other MSPs, because one thing I love about our industry is that we're not competitive. This industry will share the last thing they know with each other. We don't gatekeep, we share, we level each other up, and we want each other to be successful, which to me is like the nicest thing in our industry, because most industries don't have that. So I hope to develop this framework, and I hope to make it available to all MSPs, so they too can get the best that they possibly can from the next evolution of MSPs.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this might be the only industry I've ever heard that's very little competition. So
And it's crazy, right? Like, I can call up any one of our like local MSPs in my neighborhood, and I can actually invite them to lunch and say, like, we had a luncheon last week where we just like, hey, what tools are you using? What's working for you? Are you automating anything? Like, have you tried this? Oh no, have you tried this? Which conferences are you going to? And we just do lunch meets like that with other MSPs all the time, and we just data share.
that's truly terrific. I'm glad to hear that for all you guys. That's awesome. So let's talk about maybe the person listening who's thinking maybe I should start an MSP someday, right?
Mm-hmm.
When something about running an MSP, what is something about running an MSP you didn't fully understand until you were, I guess, running it yourself?
Well, I think an MSP is a large word. So, I want to like divide it. You have an MSP, then you have like an MSSP, and then you have like an MIP, right? And to me, either of them can be started individually. The most successful will have one of all those components in it. Okay. So the MSP is something that keeps the lights on, let's just say. So it keeps everything running, make sure you're connected, make sure you have all the tools you need. Okay.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're secure. If you have a data breach, anything else, that's your MSSP. That's your security platform. So I think that right now, those who are interested in entering this field, the easiest way to get into this field would be through the MSSP route. Okay. It would be the most low-hanging fruit, because right now we have CMMC that has now become a requirement. And anybody who is going to almost do business with not just government agencies, but large enterprises are going to require this level of security. This level of security, this cybersecurity that's going to be required this year, this NIST, 800, 1-800, or there's so many, 27,001, 801, I can't even remember all the names, but all of the requirements, WISP, all of those, they're all going to be mandatory this year. So I feel like if I were to want to open up my own this first time this year, I would say probably open up cybersecurity and offer a way to be compliant. If they wanted to do any business with the DoD or any large enterprise, they could help companies become compliant with or CMMC certified, NIST certified. Any of those would be probably the easiest, and they could hire or even use tools directly to suffice that. So they don't even need to have necessarily the technical expertise, because there are tools that actually will help them guide the client through that. So I'd say that's the most low-hanging fruit to get into the business. And then from that, you can learn the MSP side and then learn to evolve the MIP side. But I would say it's probably the fastest growing part in our world, are people entering cybersecurity because of the number of attacks, because of the growth of AI.
Can't even imagine. And like, would you say, from your experiences, is there a certain like mindset that like really matters if you're going to be a new founder nowadays?
Well, I think the world is changing really fast. So a new founder today has to be really open-minded, not closed-minded, has to be open to new technologies and testing them. I would say anyone who is like singularly minded might have a hard time in this field, because it's rapidly changing, and you really can't be stuck to the things you like or the things that worked in the past. You have to know that what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. So really be flexible if you're a really flexible entrepreneur, and You don't mind ups and downs. You've got a little bit thick skin to get in this. I think you definitely need that. And I also think that it doesn't keep traditional hours in the beginning, so I think you kind of have to go where the opportunity calls you. It might not be a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job.
That's understandable right there. 9 to 5, it always just determines on how hard you work, basically, at the end of the day. So
I agree.
Going from an MSP to the MIP, what do you think it's transitioning from an MSP to an MIP in the next 5 years?
I think you still need both, because basically everything needs to still keep running. So, something, even if you're cloud-based, it doesn't really matter. Something goes down, you're still going to need that. You're breached, you're still going to need that. So that's what I'm saying. They're all evolutions of one industry. But what's happening is, like back in the day, all you needed was to plug in your computer and it worked. And then all of a sudden there were tools, and then all of a sudden there was security. And so then, then there were software programmers and software engineers. And so people say, oh, you're in IT? No, you might not program software. You might not do security. Now there are a whole bunch of different jobs within that industry. Yeah. So I want you to think that an MSP is now no longer an MSP. You're like a tech partner. And if you want to become just an MSP, you're going to have to say that you don't do these other services. You're not all in one. You're going to have to identify yourself with the types of services you really do carry. And, those who want to evolve and become all three of these aspects are going to, have a different market share than the ones who just do one.
Yeah, of course. And before we wrap up, we're going to end with a 2-part question, close up the conversation today.
Okay.
What advice would you give yourself 20 years ago today? And what advice would you give to the next MSP owner on our podcast?
I'm sorry. So someone's in the background making noise, so I'm trying to make them be quiet so they know. Okay. So 20 years ago, that is an interesting one. So 20 years ago, what advice would I have given myself 20 years ago? Well, I would give myself advice that any opportunity that you see in this space, jump on it and take it and fail fast. So I would say, this is an industry quickly changing. Don't limit yourself. Open your mind to everything that's out there and try to learn it before everybody else learns it, even if you think you have no idea what you're doing. Okay? And I say that firsthand. And what I would give myself for the future is, and probably interesting, I would say document your trials and errors. I feel like a lot of times I want to go back and I remember something, but I didn't maybe document it, or I want to use it as a learning tool for someone I'm mentoring, or I want to use it as like little bits of wisdom, but I didn't like document the entire journey, and I'm trying to like remember and fill in the blanks. Like, I feel like we live in a digital age that makes it really easy to document our journeys and learn from it by just reviewing it and not relying on our memory. That if I were to advise myself now, which I'm going to now that you said that, because that was great, is I want to document this journey that I'm taking now digitally so that I can look back and get advice from myself, or use my older self to give my new self advice.
Of course. I love that, Manal. That's amazing. And Manal, once again, that was the last question, but I just want to say thank you once again for your time today. It was truly a pleasure to have you on here and to hear your story. And I really can't wait for everyone else to hear it themselves.
Thank you. Thank you. And you were also delightful and fun. And I love what you guys are doing. And it's a great platform for MSPs. So I encourage it. It's a great platform to get information. MSPs, like I said, we're a source where we get information from each other. So as much information you can put out there for us, we share it. So great, good for you, and continue to do that. I have one last saying, and if you know the words the world is made up of, you can make up of it whatever you wish.
Ooh, I love that, Manal. Thank you once again. It's amazing to have you on.